Cool.
Good to go.
What is up, everybody? Hello and welcome to the CRE News Hour. It's a weekly podcast at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time where we come to you live to discuss current events and everything commercial real estate. My name is Henry Eisenstein. I'm here with my co-host, Rafael Collazo. How you doing, my friend?
What's up, man? How's it going? Loving the rhythm you're getting in with my name, so that's good, man.
I have once a week practice time.
There you go. Hey, it's a benefit though. That's awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you being here. It's December, which is crazy to think. Good opportunity for us to finish the year strong. So, just
100%, man. Here. Yeah, man. And look, today's show, we're going to be discussing social media fueling apartment application fraud, the recovery pathway for 2024 and what that looks like. Industrial sales are dropping off, which is kind of surprising. And consumer spending. We're talking about retail and hospitality performance, and obviously so much more. Rafael, where do you want to start today?
Yeah, we're going to get started in something that I found really interesting, which actually came up in a board meeting that I had this morning. I serve on a non-professional nonprofit board, but it's how renters are using TikToks and other mediums to defraud landlords at luxury apartments. So apparently this is a growing trend where people are essentially watching TikTok and Twitter videos and learning about ways to be able to defraud different apartment buildings, because obviously with the advent of digital technology, a lot more of these buildings are doing the application process online. And they actually had a statistic in here that referenced that. So they said 69% of people submitted their applications online and 36 signed their lease electronically. So there's been a growing number of people who essentially are gaming the system. They're filling out applications, faking pay stubs, essentially making it look like they're great on paper. And then once they've signed the lease, they move in and they just don't pay at all. And then the landlord has to go through the process of actually evicting them out of the property. And with the courts being backed up because of everything that happened during COVID, there's just way too many cases on the docket, such that a lot of these people are able to stay in these apartments for months. And I know you probably have seen on the news, there was a lady who went to this guy's Airbnb in California and couldn't get out for another, I think it took him almost 18 months to get her out. So that's the type of stuff that you're kind of contending with. And unfortunately, which is really upsetting, is that there's just nothing a lot of these government agencies are doing to be able to mitigate some of this impact. And so you're starting to see a trend upward. I think they were sharing some actual numbers just to kind of give you some perspective on the fraud that's taking place. So it says here, the reported internet-based real estate crimes have risen from 213 million in 2020 to almost 400 million last year. So almost a doubling of real estate crimes as a result of, it just being, readily available on the internet. So again, it's unfortunate. It's kind of upsetting. It was interesting enough in the board meeting I had this morning. I just found out apparently there's a TikToks going around that teach you how to steal cars, and Hyundais and Kias are being targeted because they're just easier to jumpstart. And so we're seeing a lot of these types of cars around the country start getting picked up. And apparently it's a big problem here in Louisville. I'm sure it's a problem across the country, but be careful on TikTok, as they say. So
that's so interesting, man. You know what's funny? I see, what I see, I've seen more than anything else in regards to the fraud side for rentals is those properties that are listed for rent on Zillow or Craigslist or anything like that. And they're just like, wire me a $1,000 security deposit and you can move in or anything like that. And then I feel like I've seen a lot of those or on Facebook, right? You go on Facebook Marketplace for the rentals. I do see a lot of that. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But I mean, look, this is just goes to show you that you really got to double check and triple check your tenancy. So as the landlord, you really have to double check everything. You do background checks, NTN reports. We'll be able to support you with that. Typically I don't like to ever work with people who, if they don't have a broker, it raises flags to me, right? Why aren't you working with a real estate agent, right? Because a lot of people do. And if they're, if it's an individual, I want to have myself meet them do several different screenings. I want to get every single bit of information I possibly can from them. So just keep your lookout. If you're a landlord, you really have to double check, triple check, quadruple check your possible tenants, whether you're in the residential or commercial side.
100%. Yeah. And getting references and actually following up on those references. I mean, I own some property here in Louisville, and, anytime I have a tenant move in, it's that process. It's provide me with your last couple landlords. And I actually call those individuals to gather information about those people. And again, you'd
Rather
be
be safe
surprised.
than sorry.
Exactly. And again, and another thing too is when you ask all these questions, the people who are actually trying to be fraudulent, they just stop engaging with you because they realize, oh, you're on your P's and Q's and you're going to eventually find this out. So they eventually just go on their merry way. And so oftentimes it doesn't even get to the point where you have to verify a lot of this information. But again, it's better to be safe than sorry is really the moral of this story. But it's just amazing that mediums like a TikTok, Twitter, and some of these other platforms are now becoming grounds for people to learn how to be fraudulent. It's really disappointing, to be quite honest with you. So
Gotta love you, old social media. You got
absolutely. Yes.
gurus and theft.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And you got to try to mitigate some of that, I guess. But the next up article actually is a Henry's article. It's the number of industrial properties getting sold keeps dropping. So that's very surprising.
Yeah, I mean, I thought this was an interesting article just because, biggest asset classes that we're targeting on my teams are industrial, retail, multifamily. I thought this was actually really interesting. Obviously, this depends on where you're located, but I mean, obviously,
Sure.
this is
Yeah.
an overall statement, and you can kind of note that where we're at right now in 2023 is just shy of the rough average over the last nearly decade. So we're somewhere around par, but obviously what we're noticing now, at least you can scroll down into more of the article. You start noticing that what I thought was the most fascinating was the demand on the tenancy side for certain square footages where, square footage ranges is still fairly high. It just seems like the craze of everyone jumping on the industrial side of things like e-com, and storage and manufacturing and all that kind of stuff that that's kind of slowed down as it seems.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and we had talked about this on a couple other of the podcast episodes, but the big footprints for these logistics companies, there's only a limited amount of those individuals or companies that are active in the market right now. And so, we had a gentleman who came. Go ahead.
I was gonna say quickly, if you just look at the pieces right in front of you, right on the top of the screen here. Look back in the industrial after reaching a 2007 high. No, hold on, sorry,
I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yeah.
After reaching 2007 high.
Yeah. Yep. Transaction counts for the industrial property sales plunged 49% before bottoming it out in 2009. And then it says in the current cycle, closing volumes were down 39% in the third quarter in comparison to the highs we saw in 2022, where the market experienced a comparable peak to trough decline in the sales volume in 2024. Transaction counts could land somewhere around 15,300 closing, similar to the number of industrial property sales we saw in the first quarter of 2007. So again, this is why I feel like it's just so important. Again, my biggest takeaway, things that I'm looking to implement is this is why I believe it's important to be tracking data so you can follow trends.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and understand where it could potentially go, and that's why looking back at data also provides you with some perspective because you can kind of, I mean, again, no one can predict the future by any stretch of the imagination, but you can see patterns, and you can start modifying the actions you're taking on a day-to-day to be able to essentially make educated guesses about where you think the market's going to go. So I think, kind of what you're mentioning is this is why we do these types of things. This is why we're having the discussions about these articles so you guys can stay up to date on all the news that is happening in commercial real estate so that hopefully you can apply these lessons in your own business and hopefully, over time it benefits you immensely. So
sure. And look, this is like a good thing before we jump into the next hour. You can bring it up. But this is also why I think it's just so important to be paying attention to trends. Like your hyper local market might not be a really great area for you to be focusing on industrial. So joining an industrial business, a brokerage or industrial team is going to be a really tough time, right? Like I'm working with a number of guys right now who are out in California, who are office guys, big time class A office, corporate offices. And it's like in some subsets, it might be really lucrative. In other subsets, it could be really tough to make money there. Right. So it just, this is, we are constantly trying to stay ahead of trends so that we can be prospecting for the right stuff instead of prospecting just for the sake of prospecting. So what do we have here?
All right. So next up is an article I pulled up. It's actually the U.S. has a problem with seniors unable to afford housing. So, this is this is probably not a news to anyone. I mean, obviously the affordable housing issue in the United States has been pronounced for many years, but with the increasing number of seniors that are entering retirement, we've actually seen historic rates up 34% from 43 million in 2012 to 58 million in 2022. Obviously, we're contending with a baby boomer generation that's entering into retirement, and there's going to be tens of millions of more people who enter this, kind of retirement environment. And so what they're pretty much talking about is that a growing number of individuals in this retirement subsect are being cost burdened by the cost of actually housing themselves. So 11.2 million older adults were considered cost burdened, which is that means they spent more than 30% of their household income on housing costs. So again, it's just a sizable increase going forward. So, this is something that a lot of these municipalities and people across the nation are going to have to contend with, is that as more and more people begin to age, there's going to be a higher demand for senior housing. There's going to be a higher demand for, more intensive housing where you have nurses on site. There's going to be potentially more demand for people who come to your home and be able to help you with the basic tasks of life. And so, targeting different industries where there's population trends heading in that direction is probably a wise decision. And so that's kind of what the gist of this article is. And they talk a little bit about the inequality between different demographics and how that's going to potentially impact more people other than others down the road. So
Interesting. I think that this is a really fascinating article, to be honest. Like, I think this is like a wake up call for a lot of people that, you need to be more prepared. Like, this is why I talk so long term. Like, you need to be prepared for 30 years down the road, 40 years down the road. Like, I don't care if you're 20 years old, 40 years old, 70 years old. Like, you need to be prepared for the decades to come where, like, just because you're retired, it doesn't mean expenses are going down. Right. And most of the time, it means income is going down, right? Because if you're looking to retire, that means you're not generating any active income anymore, and you need to be prepared for these types of things. And it seems like a lot of people are very ill prepared for. I mean, we've been seeing this for years now, that people are very much ill prepared in retirement. Um, I see this all the time. I mean, I've even seen this in family members and um, friends where they're just incredibly ill prepared to quote retire. Like, oh yeah, I'd like to retire at 65. That's not a thing anymore. And and where like you might be able to, used to be able to have a pension very regularly. Pensions are not normal anymore, right? Unless you're in the certain specific jobs. So it's like you need to be putting away for these types of things in life, right? Because if you don't invest properly to earn income when you are not working, you either are going to work until the day you die, or you're going to have incredible troubles financially. I think it's just a wake up call for a lot of people. It's an absolute wake up call.
yeah, and that's great. And in a profession like ours, where you have periods where you can make quite a bit, and then there's periods where maybe your income fluctuates, like and obviously over time you can improve that with your performance in the industry and continuing to be out there. But again, in any entrepreneurial endeavor, there are going to be periods of times where you have peaks and troughs and everything else. And so being understanding that in this time frame, you need to set aside funds and put them to work for you. You need to continually think about saving. You need to continually think about investing. And then over time, I mean, you may or may not have to worry about it. But that's one of the things that I think is kind of a lesson here. And, again, if you're wanting to kind of start a business or look into doing something, maybe servicing the growing population that is aging is probably not a bad move on your part. So,
Yeah, that's for sure.
I
I thought
so
this
next
one was
up,
an interesting one.
this one, I'm excited to hear about it. So Universal starts work on new kids resort in North Texas.
So the reason why I brought this up, which I thought would be fascinating, is just like we look at trends as to asset classes that are performing well based off of what's closing, being listed, right? What's transacting. This is also really interesting where, this gave me reminded me about how in every market, you should be paying attention to all the very large development that is going on, so you can know about the transitions of individuals possibly moving to the area. Because, like, I'll give you an example. In New Jersey, there is this old army barracks, huge army barracks. Okay, it's called Fort Monmouth. Okay, it's actually in a really good location in New Jersey, Central Jersey, sort of where very close to where I grew up. And there's this huge army barracks that was being finally redeveloped. Finally, after 50 years of nothing. Okay, it was just becoming decrepit. In this really nice area. It was just like this weird thing that nobody talked about. And it finally, over the last few years, has started to being developed. A lot of cool places are being developed there, a lot of housing. And Netflix signed a lease to move there, right? So I end up seeing a 4-family property literally on the border of this area. And like it's literally like the backyard is in that town. Like it's like there's a huge body of water, or a nice river, stream, brook, whatever you want to call it, between my property and Fort Monmouth, which is being developed into Netflix, which is going to be bringing 5 to 10,000 jobs to the area, right? So it's like I know for a fact my property is going to be going up and down. There's going to be massive demand for affordable housing. We just talked about this, affordable housing in that location. So I know that like holding on to this property, little baby 4-family property, is going to be massively going up in value. I bought it almost, just under 2 years ago. It's gone up, 50% of value or more. And I know that it'll probably go another 50 or plus percent just because of who's going to be renting. So these apartments, because in that area, there's not a lot of super affordable housing, like 3-bedroom townhomes are going for $5,000 a month. Right. So like, a 2-bedroom apartment will be going for, again, probably $3,000 and seem incredibly affordable. So, I have 3 2-bedrooms and a 1-bedroom apartment right there. So it's like, it's going to be able to drastically help things with cash flow. So this is a great opportunity and a reminder for you guys, like, hey, if you guys are near North Texas, right? Like this is going to be a park in Frisco, Texas, 20 miles north of Dallas downtown. This is actually super interesting because it's like, if you know of multifamily properties that are right on the border there of where they're developing, buy it up, people. Buy it up, because they're going to be there's going to be a lot of jobs, a lot of people that are going to be working there needing housing. So I would be looking for 5 fams, 10 fams, 20 unit, 30 unit, 40 unit buildings, and make it pretty, because you got plenty of time to make it nice in the meantime while this is being developed. So anyways, just for food for thought for me.
100%. I appreciate you sharing that insight. And, this is one of the big reasons I'm a huge proponent of people signing up for local business journals and other publications where these announcements take place. I subscribe to my local Louisville Business Journal. I'm sure in Miami there's a business journal, and there's a variety of different other publications that you can follow where reporters and other entities break news of different announcements for jobs and so whatever else. And so in this instance, it's the same exact thing. You've had this Universal Studio announcement. They're telling you about what the potential of the project will be. Eyeballs are going in that direction. And so if you can find opportunities adjoining or close by to this particular property, then obviously you can benefit immensely from the stimulus that occurs as a result of, more eyeballs and people pushing investment dollars over in that direction. There's a big factory that's going in Glendale, which is about 45 minutes south of here in Louisville. It's going to be one of the major battery plants for Ford. And when that announcement took place, it was a $5 to $10 billion project over a period of time. You start seeing all these properties popping up for sale for ridiculous amounts, but it's because of the notoriety that Ford offers, right? It's going to be one of the only 2 biggest battery plants for Ford in the world, and so it's a big deal. And so again, if you follow these publications, you have these opportunities to be able to benefit from them. So
yeah, and just make sure you're taking advantage of it, right? Like we have, like, I think this is so freaking amazing because we're in this industry. We're like, it is insider trading per se. Legal insider trading, knowing, hey, I know this huge development's going on and there's about to be a massive influx of people that need a place to live, right? This is just one part of the aspects, right? Need a place to live. Those people are also going to shop at the local grocery stores. Those people are also going to go to the local gyms, yoga studios, nail salons, barbershops, you name it. It's like, think about the demand that is coming into your local area by finding out what's being developed. And it's like, if you see, like, again, Ford is probably going to be bringing 5, 10, 20,000 employees to work there. So if that is the case, you might want to pick up a 4 fam, 10 fam, or whatever, equity you can while you still have the ability to.
Definitely. I couldn't agree more. And before we dive into this next article, I just want to make sure that if you guys are watching this, feel free to type away in the chat box. Let us know where you guys are tuning in from. We're always excited to see all the different people who are engaging with the show. Along with that, if you guys have any questions or want us to provide any feedback on some of these articles, feel free to type away. We're going to have a section at the end of this hour where we all open it up to Q&A and we start getting some feedback from you all. So again, thanks all you guys who are tuning in. There's a lot of people already typing away. So excited to hear your guys' feedback.
Definitely appreciate you. And by the way, today is the day we're going to be underwriting a deal live with you.
Yeah, we have. We were actually brainstorming before the call, and so we're really excited to share one with you today. But next up, so what we're going to ahead and do is we're going to keep on moving forward. So next up is an article that
So go for it.
yeah, that I found that obviously is find it quite interesting. Is obviously I'm operate a lot in the retail sector, but retail and hotel performance quietly gaining momentum. So hotels throughout COVID were the most greatly affected, along with the office, as you can imagine. I mean, people weren't traveling. The idea of being able to congregate in a building where a lot of people didn't know each other just wasn't very attractive to a lot of people. But over the last couple years, we've seen a big resurgence in hotel demand. And I mean, right now, I've talked to several people who operate in the hotel space, and one of my buddies that I had known locally, he worked at a REIT that was focused on primarily hotels, and again, they're doing extremely well. The revenue per room is up, and obviously, again, the cost of running the hotels have increased as well, but the demand for people operating within the space has been very high as well. So, I'm really excited for the hotel industry as a whole. Obviously, on the retail side, we keep talking about it in these different podcast episodes. It's been operating at a high level as well, and surprisingly, those two property types are somewhat of a darling over the last 6 to 12 months. So I don't know if you have any insights to share, Henry.
Yeah, so I think that everyone should use what I've taken away from this article is that you need to be dynamic in your approach. Being a specialist is good, and having absolutely zero understanding about other asset classes is going to inhibit your ability to grow and make more money in this business, right? These opportunities come across all the time, and if you can't see opportunity because you do not know the language, you don't know what questions to ask, you're looking, you possibly are thinking that, like, hey, if I just keep digging in this one direction. Do you ever see that image of like the guys like digging and the one guy's going for diamonds? And yeah, exactly, whatever it is, right? So my point here is that, like, this is a good reminder to know, like, hey, like hospitals hospitality, the hotel industry, like the hotel market for that type of asset class does really well, right? And there's a lot of money to be made in the hotel space. And if you're in a market like New Jersey has a crazy amount of 3-star hotels, 2-star hotels. New Jersey is not a 5-star hotel area, right? Miami, where I am now, there's a lot of 5-star hotels. But I'm saying there's a lot of hotels in, like, the hypothetical in Jersey. There's like just a crazy amount of hotels in New Jersey that are 2 and 3 stars that do trade quite frequently. So it's like, it's a very good asset class to be targeting. There's a lot of opportunity in it. And there's also a lot of opportunity, to on the investment side to even, start building some equity in that type of asset class. So just keep it in mind. I think that this is a good reminder to, like, say, hey, maybe my asset class that I'm focused on, maybe I'm focused on office still. Hey, maybe I'm focused on multifamily. I know multifamily is like, quote, everyone's like so freaking excited to buy more multifamily, but Jersey's a very tough market as an example to crush it in multifamily. It's very, like, super hyper competitive and very expensive. Unlike, some of the areas in the middle of the country where, you can buy properties at, $40,000 a unit. Like in Jersey, like that would be, you're lucky to get 140,000 a unit. So, anyways, the point I'm trying to make here is just, like, if you're focused on one asset class, I think this is, again, another reminder to say, hey, well, maybe I should diversify my asset focus and expertise so I can at least start picking up some opportunities in places that I'm maybe stepping over things.
Yeah, 100%. And understanding, like you said, the different property types that are in your sphere so that you can know how to identify opportunities, and understanding some of the regulatory environment too. Like we always preach on zoning laws. We preach on being able to, what things can go where so that you can potentially see opportunity and understand the zoning process so that if you see an opportunity that you think could be a better, highest and best use somewhere else, you can capitalize on it, put it under contract, maybe, rezone it, do something that is valued at that site. So then you can eventually flip it and make a profit as well. So there's a variety of different ways that you can approach the process, but education is the most important thing that you can do. So, all right. So next up is Henry's article. So consumers may be reaching their limit. So it says October's marks the slowest pace for spending growth since early 2021.
Yeah, I think that this to me was just a sign that, hey, if you are spending above your means, you need to be cautious because things are still not only in inflation where you're seeing like, listen, I once thought making $1 million a year was a lot of money. Okay. I like, and again, I'll even go farther back. I remember thinking that 100 grand was like a crazy amount of money. Like if I earned $100,000, I'd be set. Right. Like, and obviously this was me at like, 16, 18, 20 years old or so. And then what happens is that you realize that $100,000, goes by in a blink of an eye. Like my rent is $6,000 a month, right? It's like, how on planet Earth would you possibly? I wouldn't even get approved for this place, this condo, right? So it's like that to me is like crazy. Where like I have a lot of friends of mine who went off to college, and now they're making 80 to 120, $150,000 a year. Like money goes by so quickly, and it's like you need to be cognizant of saying, hey, I learned this from Grant, think about this from Grant Cardone because he's been talking about this so long, right? You have your income and you have your expenses. Expenses can only go so low, right? Like you can only live so below your means, right? Per se, right? Even at $100,000, 150 grand, 200 grand, like you can only spend so little money until it's sort of just like, what are you actually doing? What are you working for? What are you living for? Right. So the opportunity is on the income side because income is unlimited. So it's learning how to structure and work in a way where you're not capped income wise, right? Like if I was just focused on saving money, which I think is incredibly important, if I was just focused on saving money, I don't think I'd be where I'm at financially. So I think that this is like just a reminder of saying like, hey, all this bullshit and fear mongering that the media is posting about when it comes to consumer spending, and the way consumers are quote making and spending their money. I think it's freaking unbelievable. Like you can fix this problem generationally if you take a 5 or a 10-year season in your life to focus on your business and go after it. Right. I mean, the same journey that I'm on right now, same journey that Raphael's on right now. Like this, we are trying to make a major difference in generational wealth. Right. And it's like, think about how on planet Earth can you survive making 200 grand a year right now? I don't understand. I mean, Greg Cardone talks about how do you make it? How do you survive on $1 million plus? I think you could do okay, depending on
Yeah.
where you're.
Yeah.
But again, it's just a reminder. Like, listen, I don't like it is tight. Don't like, if it feels tight on 100, 200 grand a year, we got to focus on raising your income like drastically. It's time to get back to work at 100 hours a week. It's time to get back to the pavement, make a lot of calls, go after it because if you think that making 100 or 200 grand a year and saving and living below your means is going to help you to not have the seniors issue of affordability when you're older, you're wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think it comes back to the idea of work-life balance. I think there's a lot of people who misconstrue that. I think one of the Jeff Bezos said it best. I watched an interview on him a while back where he talks about there's no such thing as work-life balance. It's all about work-life harmony.
I agree.
So you want to find a scenario whereby your work kind of folds into your personal life because again, we're passionate about what we do. We're passionate about helping people, whatever vertical that you're just deciding to pursue. And, there's going to be periods of your life where you hustle. Right now, this is the period of the life where you should be hustling your tail off and you have to work nonstop, continue to establish yourself in the marketplace and grow as best you can. And then at a certain point in life, if you have kids or grandkids or whatever else, that's the moment in time where you can maybe dedicate a little bit more time towards that regard. But I'm in the same boat as you. Until you have a business that's humming and making you quite a bit of money, there's no reason that you should be, kind of sitting on your laurels because at the end of the day, you owe it to yourself. And not only do you owe it to yourself, you owe it to your family and all the people who've made sacrifices in their life. And even prior to you, think about your grandparents, think about your great grandparents, the struggles that they had to put you in a position to where you're at today. So no excuses, as I say.
I love it, man. I love it. Just keep this in mind. Let this be a reminder. Pound the pavement right now. Like we are in a season right now where like the people it is going to be called the great separation. Okay. I'm calling it now. Okay. The great separation of the people who are working their asses off right now are going to see massive increases in their income, especially I'm talking about commercial real estate agents. Okay. I'm not talking about anything else. There's going to be a great separation in agents who are freaking hustling their asses off right now. Okay. Like the two of us on here, like many of you who are watching it, who are hitting the phones hard every day. and the people who are sitting on their laurels, twiddling their thumbs, wondering and praying and hoping that business is going to come their way. There's going to be the great separation of agents in income. I'm telling it's been here before, and it's going to come again. We're like, especially through the market cycles that we're about to see in the next coming years. If you want to be on the in in the right side, the pound and phones, take a moment, a season of your life right now. Take a season of like this is a season, the appropriate season of your life, right? Take some time to just focus on your business, right? I like you said, it's I don't believe in balance. I think balance is BS. I think that like it's okay. Like I am balanced in the sense that my of what's required. Like I will do what's required, not what makes me happy or not what you know I'm excited about. Like I will do what is required. End of story. Like it's like a child, right? Like your business is like a child. If your child is struggling right now and it needs to go to the hospital, you're going to take it to the hospital, right? In the business, it's like, hey, if your business is struggling, it's because you don't have enough freaking leads, right? Instead of doing CPR, you need to be doing, getting on the phones, right? Talking to the phone a lot. So, anyways, I could rant on this kind of shit forever, but it kind of irks me when you see these consumer BS spending things, and so many people are just like struggling financially. It's like pick up the phone. You can make $100,000 commission check in one phone call.
Yeah. No, 100%. And I think it kind of goes to the lie that a lot of people have been told about, the job security out there and having a traditional path, which again, for some traditional paths is the way that they go, and that's power to them. But at the end of the day, we're the fabric of the United States, in my opinion, has been formulated around kind of taking it and running with it. Like the whole reason that our families have come to the United States is for chasing the opportunity. And you can create a life that you want in this lifetime in the United States. And I truly believe that. And so if you have the privilege of being in this country, make sure that you take advantage of it whenever you can. So, all right. So I guess as far as the articles are concerned, we've kind of hit the limit. But as far as the questions, go ahead and type away in the chat box. We're going to be pulling up a deal here shortly to kind of go through, just to kind of get your guys' take on it. Henry is going to be pulling it up, and we're going to be running through it.
So real quick, I'm going to show you an opportunity. Okay. I challenged myself the other night. Okay. This is Monday night, very late. It's like 9:00 at night. And I'm like, my fiance's, just got back from a trip from Northeast, and she's sick. She's not feeling well. I'm by myself on the couch. I'm like, you know what? And I normally take this time to go work on things because, she's sleeping. She's good. I took care of her. I got some time by myself. I'm like, okay, this is where I can get my quiet work done. Okay. And I was like thinking to myself, and I had so many people reach out to me and say, talking about how they're struggling in this business to do deals. And I'm like, I want to show that anybody, licensed or not, can go into this business, okay, and make money, and fairly quickly, okay? So I challenged myself. I said, okay, I'm going to do it in a way where I have no connections, no nothing, and I'm just going to try to find a way to get a deal, okay, and fairly as quickly as I possibly can, okay? So I looked on LoopNet, okay, went on LoopNet, and I found and I went on, I called up a few friends. I said, hey, because again, I want to be resourceful. This is like seriously, like no connections of my own. I'm calling up just a few friends of mine, right? Other real estate agents. Every one of you probably know a few real estate agents that said, hey, can I get access to your CoStar account? Okay. So I got access to CoStar. I looked on LoopNet, and I was using both of them for the entire state of New Jersey to look at all the properties that are currently available for sale. Now, is there over like 2,000? Okay. I narrowed down the search a little bit for different areas that I like to be in and different asset classes that I would look to buy. And all I was looking for was a couple outliers, properties that were listed at a price per square foot that I thought were like, hey, I should probably look into this a little bit more. Okay. I went through 2,000 properties in about 3 to 4 hours. Okay. On Monday night. And I took a bunch of pictures and screenshots. And then the next day, on Tuesday, I started making some phone calls to these brokers. And one of the properties that I came across was this property, which I'm going to show you. Okay. And by the way, I'm like, this is how crazy interesting it gets in a minute. Let me bring this up just so you guys can all see it. I'm going to show you two views. One view is quickly just, I pulled it up on LoopNet. Okay. So it's this retail plaza. Let's see if it's going to pull up on the screen. Okay. This is the retail plaza. Big, blue, ugly retail plaza. Okay. Got it. So found this loop down at CoStar. Okay. And I called up the broker, which I'm going to pull it up now. And she made me sign she made
NDA.
me sign a
NDA.
CA, yeah, confidential. Yep. She made me sign it. I called up as an investor, by the way, and I said, "Hey, I'm a local investor. I do hold a license, but I'm not, if we get it for the right price, I don't need to make any commission." Very friendly, just open conversation. I signed the CA. Then she sent me over the financials. Okay. This is where it gets really interesting. Again, I'm recording the content around this. So there's going to be a video that comes through eventually, depending on how this all goes. But I'm giving you a little bit insider look behind the scenes. Okay. So here's the spreadsheet right now. I inputted all the data into the spreadsheet. Okay. The property actually, by the way, is listed at $2.7 million right now. If you went to go list it or went to look for the listing, it's listed at 2.7 million bucks. Okay. If you look how crazy this is, because this is what people don't actually think about. If you were to buy it today at a 7 cap, which is this down here, 7% cap rate. Okay. The deal for my LPs, because I raised money, I'm a syndicator, right? This would not be 100% purchase on my own. Okay. My LPs would make a negative 5.5% IRR, which is freaking terrible. Nobody on planet Earth would invest in this deal. Okay. So for all of you real estate agents who go, "Oh, it's a 7 cap," who gives a shit? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cap rate is one view. Okay. One very small view of the deal. It means almost nothing. I guess it's a thing to take into consideration. It's not everything. Okay. So, and again, I'm very conservative with a lot of my details here, but I just want to explain to you. So that's at a 7% cap rate. I want to get this IRR to my investors look for 20% plus IRR, very conservative. Okay. 20%. So if you start playing around with some of these numbers, which by the way, I mean, I started putting in all the expenses. I'll show you the other sheets first. Hold on. Let this goes through. Sorry for the lagginess. Oh, here you go. So this is the expenses here. This is broken down over the next couple quarters, months, years. You can see how everything's broken down. It's going to cost me roughly $162,000 in the first year, 7% management fee. By the way, I'm paying my manager 5%. I can make a small percentage on that, right? Typically how I do it. You can see all the expenses. I pulled this off of her sheet, plus I added more because obviously their expenses is not going to have everything. Okay, let's go to the income. Go over to the income. I added in all of the tenants, all the square footages, what they're all paying. I added into market rent. This is, this is all market. And I'm also going to try to get them all up to triple net leases. So this includes the triple net value. Okay. And that means we're going to come back to the cash flow board here. And this is everything plugged in on this cash flow board at 2.7 million, which is the purchase price currently, or the active listed price. Okay. If you look, this line, which is a line 11 here, is my debt service cost. Okay. That means the property brings in, this is per quarter, by the way, $86,000. And my net operating income is $46,000. My debt service is $46,000. I'm going to be negative. Every single quarter, I'm going to be negative at $2.7 million. At the list, at a 7% cap rate, people. At a 7% cap rate, 30% down, 7% interest. Okay. I am negative. Okay. I'm breaking even. However, when you start analyzing the deal a little bit more and say like, okay, well, where am I not negative? This is why you need to learn how to underwrite properties. I think this is incredibly important. This is a very important skill to have. Okay. Very important skill to have. And I start rerunning the numbers. I'm like, okay, well, what happens if I paid 2.2 million? If I paid 2.2, I'm at a 15% IRR. Okay. Which sounds all right, but I'm paying an 8.5 cap, right? And at 15%, again, my investors that I work with and I do a lot of business with won't touch something under 20% unless it's like an unbelievable building, right? It's like a class A area. Okay. service coverage ratio is very tight. Okay. But I'm not super negative. I'm just barely not negative. Okay. So if we go back to the cash flow at 2.2 million, which is a, nearly 20% cut. Okay. I'm taking 20% off the top. My cash flow, you'll see here. Okay. Per quarter, I'm going to make about $32,000 to $33,000, $34,000, somewhere between $32,000 and $34,000 in cash flow my first year. My net income is 45 grand. My debt service would be 38. I make the difference, about 8 G's a month or so. Okay. Very conservative expenditures. Okay. So what's interesting here though, is look, this is a listed property for sale. So I'm going to move on a little bit faster here. So after running all my numbers, I calculated that somewhere between 1.7 and 1.8 million would give me a very conservative, very, very good deal. Okay. I ended up making an offer at 1.8 million because I did a 1.7 over the phone, and she basically, that's 18 million. Definitely not paying 18. I had an offer at 1.8. I verbally gave her a 1.6, 1.7 offer. She wasn't happy with it. She's like, maybe a 1.8. We can try to do something. So she says, write it up. And at 30% IRR, I could raise this money no problem on this deal. And matter of fact, I probably could flip it. Let's see. Now watch this. Now I'm going to run the number at 2 million. Okay. 2 million puts me at a 22% IRR. I again would easily be able to flip this deal. I can flip it. If I get it locked for 1.8, I could easily flip it for 2 million. I would not do the deal at 2 million, but what I would do at 2 million is that I would make a broker fee, right? I can make a 3% broker fee. Okay. So what I look for is I underwrite the deals and I go in, and this is, by the way, one of 4 properties that I'm working on right now, just from me doing my due diligence that night, a few nights ago, talking with a few property owners. This is one of 4 properties, which I'm trying to record all the data for. So this is just goes to show you, like, this is what I prospect for. I prospect, I'm going to stop sharing real quick. I prospect so that I can find these types of opportunities, get the financials, underwrite the deal just like this. And obviously, I've been done 1,000 of these, so I can or several thousand at this point. I can underwrite it very quickly in my head, so I can give a very quick offer so that I can get very close to these types of returns. Because I know that if I get a deal around these types of returns, it'll be very, very, very difficult for me to lose money.
Yeah. Great advice. I mean, and obviously being able to understand what your buyers are looking for so that you can structure the deals that makes it almost, I mean, it's not necessarily 100%, but it's a pretty high percentage that if you put it in front of those individuals, that they're eventually just going to say, yes, let's move forward with the deal. So you're doing a lot of the legwork on the front end to make sure that gets done. 2
million is a 9.5 cap, people. Okay. And that's at a 20% IRR, a 9.5 cap. Everyone's like, oh, well, remember I told you at a 7 cap, it loses money.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to think about.
It's nuts to me too. I mean, you see some of these properties sometimes trading, especially like the absolute triple net properties, like the Starbucks. Well, I mean, not Starbucks, but again, you got some other, retail triple net properties that trade at like 5.5 and 6 cap. And I'm just like, dude, what are you doing? You essentially can't have any debt, and you're essentially buying a bond, so you're getting a 5 or 6% return on tying a $5 million in capital. Like, it makes no sense to me, but, I guess some people make sense.
Yeah. And like this, and if you, by the way, if you're curious about these types of process, how this works, okay, how to prospect these types of deals, find these types of deals every Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, I come to you live and cold call with you. So I can show you how you can cold call. I show you how to pull the data, call the data, and how to underwrite the properties and make offers. So if you're ever interested, make sure you check out the live stream, which again is every Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah, and Henry has obviously a very elaborate Excel sheet that he uses, but you don't need necessarily a very elaborate Excel sheet. It's very, you can find a lot of these Excel sheets online where, they essentially give you the basis of the understanding of what you're making offers on, or at least you can make an offer that's, informed. So as long as you get the right information, which is what Harry's mentioning, the income, the expenses, that sort of thing, you can backtrack into what your potential offer could be. So, you may see the very elaborate Excel sheet and like, oh, I don't have something like that. It's like that's just an excuse. I mean, you can literally get something that will service what you're trying to do and ultimately get you to the finish line. So,
and I think it's important to pay attention to, like, yeah, of course. I think that, and by the way, if you guys are still tuning in, if you have any questions in regards to underwriting deals, anything we talked about today, what's going on in your commercial real estate business, you ask away in the chat box. We'll make sure we support you. I just wanted to mention this, right? Like a really quick thing to do, okay, either go off of cash flow, cash on cash returns, right? That's going to be incredibly important. Cash on cash returns, which means how much cash should I put down, inclusive of the renovations that I make. Okay, down payment, all my closing costs, and the amount of money that I use for renovations, all the cash out of pocket that I use to buy the building, renovate the building. Okay, all that cash out of pocket to acquire versus the amount of money I'm making after debt service. So if you're investing $1 million into a building between the down payment, the closing costs, and renovations, and you make $100,000 net cash flow after all debt service is paid off, that is a 10% cash on cash return, which, by the way, if you're unfamiliar, that would be a pretty decent return. Okay. We like that.
Excellent.
We are happy with that. Okay. This property at 1.8 million within the first 12 months would spit out $60,000, $61,000 conservatively in net cash flow. And based off of a 1.8 million, that's also of a 1.8 million, I would have to come to the table with $576,000, including renovation budget and everything. Okay. So what that means is actually here, let me even add this. I'm going to add $150,000 actually to money raised. I'm going to raise $150K for expenditures because I want to make sure the outside's really pretty. I want to make it look beautiful. Okay. Plus the 566. I'm total at out of pocket $726,000 and a 1.8 million purchase, and it's going to net me $60,000 year one. Okay. So if you take $60,000 a year, divided into 726,000, that's an 8.2% cash on cash return. Okay. Day one, which is incredibly important because that means that's the worst case scenario. That's like worst time to be making cash. I mean, like, it obviously it'll grow over time. So you need it. Like, these are the types of deals that investors want. Something that's going to cash flow day one pretty heavily, a great price per square foot, great IRR. If you find that, you're going to have a very easy time selling it.
Great insight, Henry, really. And also, one of the things we've obviously mentioned before on different podcasts is if you guys have active deals you guys are working on and you guys want us to be able to underwrite it and kind of provide some context. I mean, again, we want to kind of make this a regular part of the segment where we analyze deals live on the show. So if you guys have some deals, in particular, if they're great deals, again, feel free to send them to deals@CRENewsHour.com. Again, that's deals@CRENewsHour.com. And again, feel free to type away in the chat box if you guys have any questions, feedback. We always love to hear your guys' comments.
Yeah, let us know where you're tuning in from, what you like, what else you want to see more of on the live streams. Because again, we come to you live each and every single Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, to talk about everything commercial real estate and current events. So we appreciate you guys tuning in. Raphael, is there anything else you want to mention before we jump off here?
No, I know. I'm just, again, we're thankful for all you guys who continue to tune in. We're looking forward to continue to build this platform and it really become the watering hole for commercial real estate news and commentary. It's obviously great to have conversations about this. And I think this is going to be an increasingly important medium going into 2024. And I'm really excited to continue to build this. So
100%, man. I appreciate you a lot. We appreciate you, the audience. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you, and we'll see you guys next week.